after this movie, I'm testing out my Ant-Man powers. Ready? Go!
Huh, this is weird. Wait. Oh my god, what have I done?
What is up, everybody? RandomRandomMan here, bringing you my review for Ant-Man, which stars Paul Rudd, Evangeline Lilly, Corey Stoll, Michael Pena, Bobby Cannavale, and Michael Douglas, and is directed by Peyton Reed. Now, the plot, which of course is based off of the comic book of the same name, follows Scott Lang, played by Paul Rudd, an ex-con who is taken under the wing of Dr. Hank Pym, played by Michael Douglas, to plan and execute a heist to steal a shrinking suit called the Yellow Jacket from business tycoon Darren Cross, played by Corey Stoll, to stop him from taking over the world. And with the help of Pym's daughter, Hope Van Dyne, played by Evangeline Lilly, Lang has to embrace his inner hero and become the Ant-Man. Going into this movie, I kept my expectations in reserve. Why? Two things. One, never heard of this character. Ant-Man, sure, he's in Marvel Comics, but that's all I knew about him. And I'm not that hardcore of a comic book fan anyway, but I'm still a fan, clearly. I've sort of made it an unofficial tradition that I'm wearing this shirt every time I review comic book movies, but there's that. And two, I heard director Edgar Wright was not involved with this production anymore ever since of last year. Now, that bugged me because he directed my favorite film of his, Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, a very comic book inspired movie. And it bugged me that I wouldn't see his interpretation of the character on screen, as the test footage looked very cool. But the cast still intrigued me, and I wanted to see how the final product did turn out. How was it? Let's run down the whole thing. Paul Rudd is excellent as our title hero, Scott Lang, aka the Ant-Man. He is perfect in this role, as he is an ex-con who is also a little bit on the funnier side. This is of course helped out by the fact that Paul Rudd has been in comedies in the past, and he certainly fits the bill as being an unlikely hero once the time comes. He gets a big thumbs up from me. Now, who gets a bigger 2 thumbs up from me? Michael Douglas as Dr. Hank Pym. Wow, I love seeing Michael Douglas back in a big movie like this, and his portrayal is just simply phenomenal as a mentor who is essentially passing on the reins to Scott Lang as the Ant-Man, as he was the original Ant-Man in the context of the story. I really like the dialogue he had with Paul Rudd and Evangeline Lilly. He is just awesome. Now, speaking of Evangeline Lilly, she also did a very good job portraying Pym's daughter, Hope Van Dyne. Now, there's a little bit of tension between her and Michael Douglas's character because there has been a heated history between the two, but once you learn more about that story, it gets even more engaging. Also helped by the fact that she does a very admirable job in the role. We also have other characters here as well, such as Michael Pena as an old friend of Scott Lang. Now, all the buzz about this guy's performance is true. He is comedic gold. He is hilarious. All the dialogue he has pretty much had me laughing my socks off, and he adds to why this is one of the more humorous entries in the MCU. We also have 2 other characters that are old friends of Scott Lang. We have rapper T.I. and David Dashmalchian. Now, rapper T.I. of all people has to pop up in this movie for some reason, and Dashmalchian never heard of, but they're utilized serviceably well for the smaller roles that they have. And we also have Bobby Cannavale and Judy Greer. Cannavale plays the fiance to the ex-wife of Scott Lang, Judy Greer, and yeah, I didn't like his character. He was pretty much a big douchebag to Paul Rudd's character, and I had little reason to care about him. And Judy Greer as the ex-wife of Scott Lang, I don't I don't understand why Greer is getting these weirder roles in bigger movies these days, as she was really underutilized here, and she deserves better work, and I really hope that more comes of her in the near future. But special mention has to be given to Abby Ryder Forston as Scott Lang's daughter. I really dug the scenes between her and Paul Rudd. You can tell they have instant chemistry with one another and that they are father and daughter. So the cast here, for the most part, really are unlikely people to be assembled for a Marvel movie, but they're all the more engaging and entertaining to watch. The plot here is one aspect that had me worried about this movie going in, since Edgar Wright did, of course, leave the production late into the game. Now, I'm glad he still has a writing credit on this film, and Paul Rudd also has one, weirdly enough, but I like the script. it was very well utilized. The dialogue, some of it here or there was a little bit messy, but the majority of it was really well done, especially with Michael Pena. But the actual story was pretty enthralling to watch throughout. Again, it's an unlikely hero story about an ex-con who has to become the Ant-Man and has to go in and steal a bunch of stuff from some very bad people. And I really liked how that echoed throughout. Speaking of echoes, a lot of it had beat-for-beat moments that were similar to the very first Iron Man movie. And if you have to steal from one of the MCU movies at all for plot structure, you're gonna have to steal it from one of the better entries in the MCU. There were very big nods to the rest of this franchise. Now, the opening scene of this movie, without spoiling anything, has to do with a flashback involving Dr. Hank Pym. And just a special mention, they made Michael Douglas look super young, like very young when he was acting in the last century in his prime, and the makeup and CGI, even some other characters pop up here as characters from the MCU, but wow, I really liked how that was well done, and that was a big spark to begin the rest of the story. And as it went on, I hardly got bored. Onto the action, and at this movie's very core, it is a heist movie. Now, I personally love heist movies, just from the way they're set up and they're executed. And this movie has two heists of sorts. One is a mini one involving Scott Lang and his little posse to steal something that they don't know is apparently very important to the rest of the movie. And the final heist involving the Yellow Jacket technology being stolen from Corey Stoll's character. I really love the action and everything that took place in between. From how Scott Lang has to train with Hope Van Dyne and be under the mentorship of Hank Pym, just to the shrinking effects and how the ants crawl around Ant-Man as he's going around drainage pipes or just through the grass in general. It looks purely astonishing and catching to the eye. And it's pretty smart CGI, if I do say so myself, as it doesn't have to be all flashbang boom type of effects for a superhero movie to happen. And since this is one that's smaller in scale, pun intended, it really works well for everything that this movie has to offer. Now, there are some problems that do hinder this movie, in my opinion. Again, I am saying this a lot, but Edgar Wright was attached to this movie, and I do feel that he would have directed a better movie. Not that Peyton Reed does a bad job at all, but Edgar Wright had such an overbearing inspiration in this movie that I feel he could have done a little bit more of an inspired job. Another big problem I have is with Corey Stoll's portrayal of Darren Cross, aka the Yellow Jacket. He is the cast member I've yet to talk about. I did not like how poorly motivated this character was to be integrated to the rest of the plot. Once he first pops up, he is a man with little remorse, but a very weak one at that. He looks cool once he is fighting Ant-Man in the finale, but as a character himself, I really didn't like how he was portrayed here. But other than those two issues, I really dug the hell out of Ant-Man. My final thoughts on this movie are that the unlikely group of cast members assembled for this MCU flick, for the most part, deliver exceptional performances. The writing is top-notch, and the action, of course, is visually spectacular, from the Ant-Man effects and how he shrinks down, interacts with all the other ants, and just all the other smart uses of the technology in between all around the film. And I just think that this was such a huge blast to watch from beginning to end. Yes, I did have a big problem with Yellow Jacket and how he was poorly motivated as a villain, and I still believe that Edgar Wright would have done a better job directing this film, as his fingerprints are laced all over it. But I still definitely recommend you check out Ant-Man, especially if you're a fan of superhero movies and can't get enough of the MCU. Is it one of my favorite of the MCU movies so far? Well, no. Since this marks the end of Phase 2, I do believe that there are other movies within this timeline that work better than Ant-Man, and Avengers Age of Ultron still holds the title as my favorite of this franchise. Yeah, that's my opinion. Very unpopular one, sue me, but I believe that is so. And I just cannot wait to see Ant-Man be implemented with the rest of this series and how he interacts with other characters, as Ant-Man will return inevitably, and he's just a very creative and unique character that I cannot wait to see laced in the MCU. My final verdict for Ant-Man is 4 out of 5 stars. One final note before I end this video. Since this is an MCU movie, be on the lookout for some hidden secrets during the credits. There is a mid-credit scene that sets up a potential sequel for Ant-Man, and there is one at the very end of the credits that ties into a previous Phase 2 movie and sets up the future of this franchise. So be on the lookout for those, since they are pretty awesome. Thank you all, as always, for watching. Be sure to like this video, comment on what you thought of Ant-Man, subscribe to my channel for more, and I'll catch you on the next movie review.